adoption of your product.
Today, internet and mobile probably is the best university that I've ever had. You can communicate with all of the world. So I think the ideas you've got are fantastic. The only thing is that as an entrepreneur, that never build up a good team and set the big vision, but milestones and go on, never give up. You might have a lot of problems, right? But you can see the problem you're facing, your competitor will face it too.
Yeah.
And you think you have a lot of tough days, but your competitor may have a much easier. You never know, right? So you say that the competition within you is not is the speed of solving the problems.
For us, our story is very similar, like everybody else. We found a space on the other side. We found that entrepreneurs were working in isolation. Everybody was working from their home or from a coffee shop. And we needed to bring them together because of my business experience. I, like cargo, dropped out of university second year. Long story, we couldn't afford it because I needed to pay for my siblings' school fees. And I had done a lot of manual labor before that. So I started my first company, I failed. Started my second one, I failed. And then my third company started working, which was buying domain names from Bulgaria, buying them at about $35 and selling them at $150 in Kenya. The reason there was a business opportunity was because people didn't have credit cards, and this was the only company that accepted Western Union. So I'd ask, you want a domain name? I'll sell you a domain name. I'll come and I'll get the domain name for $35, sell it $150 and support it for a year. And then I was lucky enough to meet Anna, who is right over here. And she invested 50,000 euros for an incubation hub. Yes, so that was the beginning. Yeah. So Anna invested 50,000 euros for an incubation hub, and we agreed that we'll bring all the young entrepreneurs we can, so we share a lot of knowledge and skills and art. Dr. Mukisa Kitui, these are the young entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, last year, September, with the support of the assistance of some of the most powerful people in the world, I managed to get Jack Ma to be a special envoy of UNCTAD for youth and small business. In that act, he becomes the most expensive employee I have ever had, with the status of an Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations. One of the main things that made me look for Jack, and I shared with him over 2 years of things at Davos, at the World Economic Forum, is partly the story he has to tell. The tenacity of saying falling is ordinary, rising after a fall is what takes genius, is what takes guts. And that in the reality of the marketplace, most small businesses have high mortality rates. Very many businesses fail, but how would you keep trying again after it has failed? That narrative, I thought, needed to be told to the world. But there was a second thing. Some of you have just listened to me in the other room mention. By the end of 2015, global electronic commerce reached 25 trillion US dollars. That's roughly close to the combined wealth of the top 100 enterprises in the world. As I bring Jack Ma on his first ever trip to Africa, actually originally we were supposed to have the entire trip in Nairobi, but because of Kenya's ability to suspend economics when it's going to an election, I said, okay, we'll have this trip to Rwanda, but on our way there we must stop in Kenya. And I'm glad that we created this possibility. And our stop to Kenya for me was first and foremost to give Jack a chance to talk to this audience, and to give this audience a chance to interrogate Jack.
First, let's tell us your story. Just the first 3 years. We've watched the YouTube videos. We love them. We're inspired by them. Just the first 3 years. How did you do this? How did you do this? We want to hear it firsthand, don't we? Yes, I think that's a very good place to start.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. This is my first morning in Africa, and I'm expecting this day for a long, long time. Well, this is the best gift I've ever got from Dr. Kitui, that this morning talking to you guys. reminds me of my early days. And I see from your eyes, from your heart, what you tell, it's the passion, the inspirations, the dream that you have. I remember 1995 when I came back from the States. I visited the USA for 29 days, and I discovered the internet. So I came back to China and said, I want to do something called internet. But there is no such word called internet before, and there's no such word called internet on the dictionary. So the government does not let me to register a company called internet. Since I had no background on technology, know nothing about computer, even to today, I know very little about computers. Because I don't think you have to know anything before you do it. The great thing I see from your eyes that I know you don't have a lot of know-how. And those people have a lot of know-how don't want to do it. The entrepreneurs, you start with a dream. You start with a belief. And you also have to start with a group of people, believe the dream. So I came back to China and I said I want to do something called internet. China was not even connected to the internet in 1994. So it was very difficult to convince people there is something called internet. That was tough. People say you're telling a lie. That I know this thing exists and I know it takes time to convince people. By convincing people, it's not convincing people by words. You have to convince people by the results. I made a lot of speech in the early days, and even now I still talking to a lot of people. I came here today here not to selling China products, because you have got enough Chinese products. Right? I came here to share with you the entrepreneur spirit and the dreams. This is what I learned from the other part of the world. I learned from the American dreams. I learned from many other startups in the whole world that the dream, how they do it. I think the very important is that making sure your dream can be realized, making sure your dream makes steps by step every week, every month. And making sure that your employees believe it, making sure your customers are happy. Because if your customer happy, your employees are happy, the shareholder will be happy. Do not try to spend a lot of time with your shareholders. Spend enough time with your customers. Spend enough time with your employees. And even do not spend a lot of time with competitors, because we are all so early stage. The best way to compete, to fight against your competitor is your customers, is your colleagues. So it was early days was tough. I was the number 7 guy in China connected to the internet. The speed was so slow. You would never imagine, because in order to prove that I was not the thief, telling people telling lie. So I invited the TV friends. I've got some university schoolmates. They work in the TV station. So I invite them to come to my room and say, with a camera, and I want to tell there is something called internet. It took us 3.5 hours to download the first front page of my website. But at least to prove there's internet there. Yesterday when I arrived in Nairobi, the speed of internet, was so fast. It's so fast. You guys are lucky. Because it was so much better than the days when I started. And I think with such a great infrastructure of the internet you have, with so many people in the world today know about the internet. There today about more than 1.7 billion people are already online. But at that time, total China, less than like 500 people using internet. It's difficult. But as I said just now in the other room, everybody, when you have a dream, you have to dream globally, but you have to win locally. You have to survive today, but you also have to think about the future. If you do not think about the future, if you do not have a vision for 10 years later, what will you be? You will never have a great people follow you and join your company. But if you cannot survive, you go nowhere. Right? No matter how big dream is, it is a telling a lie. So the thing I proved when I started my business, I failed for 1995, I started the first internet company. Did not work out, so I joined the government for working for 13 months as a part-time contractor. Did not work out. So in 1999, I started my Alibaba.com in my apartment. And I know I may not succeed, but I told my 18 founders that first, even if we fail, some people will win. Internet is the future. E-commerce is the future. No matter you like it or not, 80% or 90% of business in the next 30 years will be online. And no matter what, the best way to serve the world is the internet. So I know that if I cannot make it, somebody will make it. So I continue to make it. And then the second thing I tried to prove is that if Jack Ma can be succeed, 80% of the young people can be successful. We don't have money. We don't have a relationship. I don't have a powerful, rich father, even though we don't have a rich father or uncle that can sponsor us. Everything we do is the 18 founders. We believe the future, we make progress. Even among the 18 founders, we only have 3 engineers. Among the 3 engineers, only one of them had a 3 years experience at university, study computer. The other 2, they are like amateur computer. When they open it, they don't know how to fix it. Start from there to today, we have 25,000 engineers in our company. And nobody come to buy and sell. For the first 2 weeks, terrible. We built an e-commerce company, nobody come to sell. So we have to list our own products on there, waited for 2 weeks, nobody come to buy. So we have to buy ourselves. And then the first month, some people come to sell things on our site, we buy everything. So we buy a whole house of rubbish for the whole month. We started, nobody believed e-commerce. Until today, or last year, we sold $550 billion US dollars. From nothing to $550 billion. And I think compared to yesterday was big sales, but compared to 10 years later, we are nothing. But this is what I want to say, the great ideas I heard in the next room inspired me and changed my, you are guys are the hope of Africa. And I believe 15 years ago, 18 years in my apartment, I told my team, we are the hope of China. Because we are the guys without any resources. If we can make it, most people can make it. If most people like us, without money, without resources, only with the dream and belief, if we can make succeed, China will be successful. You guys are the hope of Africa. Because what I see, I did not see you guys a lot of money, because great entrepreneurs should not have money. If you have money in your mind, this is US dollars, this is RMB, and you're talking like English pounds. Nobody will work with like. If you have a good dream, if you have a plan to making progress, things will happen. And I changed my mind this morning. Just a half an hour there, I would do more things in Africa. And the only thing I want to do is not to sell products here. And I will enable you to sell your dreams all over the world in Africa. Supporting entrepreneurs is always my dream, because I know how tough it is to be an entrepreneur. It is difficult. I never cry. I said, I only make my competitors cry. Because if I cry, I'll probably die 100 times. Because we have to encourage our team, and I say, making sure that we can survive tomorrow. As I said, before I answer a question, I want to say, this is my belief. And this is what I tell every day to myself. Today is difficult. Tomorrow is much more difficult. But the day of tomorrow is beautiful. Most people die tomorrow evening. Even today, as my size, for our company's size, I still believe today is very difficult. I have more problems than anybody here can imagine. You say, no, you are big. You make billions of dollars every